Welcome to America's Heroes Group.
Good afternoon. Welcome to America's Heroes Group Roundtable Community Outreach. It's Saturday, October 29th, 2022. October is Breast Cancer, Mental Health, National Disability, and Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I'm Vietnam veteran, co-founder, and host, Cliff Kelley.
And the impeccable Cliff Kelley, and his co-host, Colonel Dr. Damon Arnold. The executive producers, Glenda Smith, and our digital media producers, Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Production, the iconic Ivan. That's what we're calling him here. And our panelist today is Fritz Kaegi. He is the Cook County Assessor and a highly qualified expert in property assessments, holding the Chartered Financial Analyst and Certified Illinois Assessment Officer designation. He is a member of the IAAO, the International Association of Assessing Officers. And I always like to see his face because I want to see the other person my wife is in love with, because she went to Kenwood. And so she knows his history, and she is one great fan, as well as all of his classmates. So the people that you went to school with are the ones that know you. So today's discussion, we're going to talk about how veterans can save on their property taxes. And there's no better person to ask that to than this incredible financial wizard. How are you doing?
Well, hey, Colonel Arnold, good to be with you and good to be with all the listeners today. I appreciate the shout out on Kenwood. I was down at Kenwood today at Operation Push, so I always love smelling the fall air down there. When I think of fall in Kenwood. So,
well, if you heard my wife's name, Sharon Johnson Arnold, you'll know who's looking for you.
Okay, there we go.
But tell me a little bit about this, about the veteran saving and how things are, going. We actually have, a few questions to ask.
Yeah, one question that certainly people need to know, because a lot of them don't, and it's so important. What is the role of the assessor's office?
Well, hey, this is a great question, Cliff, and a great question for everyone. So our property tax system involves several different parts of government. The assessor is only one part. What we do is our job is to estimate the value of properties, of market value of every single kind of property. There's 1.9 million of them in Cook County. It's the biggest system of its kind in America. And the reason why we do this is to determine each person's share of the amount of taxes that our other government bodies have determined that they need to provide the services they provide. So our schools, our municipalities, our libraries, our parks, they come up with the amount of money that they need to raise each year. And so think of that as like the dinner tab. And then we use assessments to determine each person's share of the total value, assessed value in a community, to determine their share of that levy. And then the other thing that we do is we apply exemptions. And exemptions are a way to reduce some of your share off of the top of that tab. And we're here today to talk about veterans exemptions that are available for people who served our country that are available, but there are also other kinds of exemptions like the homeowner's exemption and the senior's exemption. It's our work to make sure that everyone's getting the benefits that they deserve to have that reduction on their bill.
That's great.
That's a great question, Cliff. Yeah, but there's one thing, how can veteran homeowners save on their property taxes? Because that's another sort of like a special category of veteran status. And do you have any advice for that, or what is your view on that?
Sure. First of all, every veteran out there should take advantage of not only the veterans exemptions that we have at our office, but all the exemptions. There are each homeowner's exemption that you have, which every homeowner is entitled to. In many jurisdictions, it's worth $1,000 a year, but there are a couple 100,000 people who haven't applied for it. In Cook County, a couple 100,000 homes that don't have it. So we want to make sure that everyone has that. If you're over 65, everyone is entitled to the senior's exemption. And if you're a veteran with a disability, depending on your disability rating, you can also be entitled to the disabled veterans exemption. And that's what we'll talk about today, how you can qualify for that. If you have more than 70% disability, according to the VA, it practically exempts you from property taxes. And we have a lot of disabled veterans in Cook County participating. We have about 10,000 of them. We're really pleased that we've increased the coverage of the exemption from where it was. It's up about 2,000 exemptions from where it was last year, so that's 2,000 heroes to our country who are getting a benefit that they deserve. And we do outreach like this to make sure that everyone is getting it. Now, let me tell you I can tell you what our veterans out there who are listening need to do to get this. First of all, the thing that you should do is you can go to the Veterans with Disabilities exemption. It's for veterans who have a service-connected disability that is certified for the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. And what it does is it reduces the equalized assessed value on your residence for a veteran with a disability. And it depends on the percentage disability that's certified by the VA. You need to apply annually because sometimes the disability rating changes each year. There's also an exemption for returning veterans, and that's for veterans returning from active duty and armed conflict. They're eligible to receive a $5,000 reduction in the equalized assessed value of their property for the year that they return. And they're required to apply annually. We're trying to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to streamline the annual application for these exemptions. When we had the COVID pandemic early on, they were renewing every year. We're going to see what we can do to make sure that we're reducing the barriers to our veterans, making sure that they get this very important benefit.
That's great.
Oh, fantastic.
How can veteran homeowners save on their property taxes?
Well, I'll give you an example.
Yes.
If you are a disabled veteran with 75% disability rating according to the VA, and you submit the letter that comes from the VA certifying that status, then it reduces your equalized assessed value by $250,000, which is greater than the assessed value of just about every kind of home. So that would mean that veteran is pretty much going to be exempted from paying property taxes. Especially if your disability status is 70% or above, the savings can be quite large. You can read all about how the different levels of reduction applied depending on your level of disability by going to our website at cookcountyassessor.com, where we have a list of what you need to do to apply, and then we have these different breakpoints in your disability level, which shows the different levels of reduction that you can receive depending on your level of disability. But the key is what you need to do to document this is to get the letter that is sent to you by the VA certifying your disability status, and then from there, our staff is ready to help you. So what you can do at our office now is you don't need to stand in line anymore. You can call and make an appointment, or you can do this online by going to cookcountyassessor.com to book an appointment. You'll see that they're right up at the top when you go to our website, that you can do that and have it be very convenient for you. You can do it remotely, so that you don't have to leave your home, and our staff is ready to serve you to make sure you get the benefits that you're entitled to.
That's great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Because, what I wanted to say was I had to commend the people in Illinois because they voted and put some legislators in place and some elected officials, but also people who are appointed who have done a wonderful job in this state. Not every state is like Illinois, where these benefits are available to our veterans. And so the work that you have done has been helping veterans, their Gold Star families, and their children, many disabled veterans who are out there. So I just want to commend you for the work you're doing in that regard. And, and I guess this also, the disability status, it applies to your primary residence. Is that what that is applicable to?
Yes. Like any other exemption, it can only be applied to your primary residence. So it has to be,
yes.
If you're claiming an exemption in another state, you can't claim the exemption here in Illinois.
Okay.
And that's the most important thing. Now, many other states do not have this disabled veteran exemption, so
yes.
you should try to make this your main residence if you are a veteran, because you're exactly right, Colonel Arnold. Our state is one of only a handful of states in our country that provide this benefit to veterans with disabilities who have a service-connected injury. And you paid the ultimate sacrifice, and the people of the state, the legislators of the state, are saluting you for your service by saying, "We got your back," because you had ours.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that in particular because we've been hearing so much negativity about people who are in legislative office, and people are backfighting and polarization and everything. There are people who are actually doing great things for people in our state, and we have got to make sure we don't see that part of the cup that is not. You always look at the half-empty part of the cup, or and the things that you are doing are just fantastic for all of us.
Certainly is. Let me ask you about that. Do you have any tips for veterans interested in home ownership?
I'm sorry, I missed it. Do you have tips for veterans?
Interested in home ownership.
Interested in home ownership. And,
Yes.
And we have you have a friend that's joining us.
Well, yes. First of all, we have a wide variety of information at the Cook County Assessor's website, cookcountyassessor.com, where you can not only get information about the veterans exemption and the returning veteran, the disabled veterans exemption and the returning veterans exemption, but also the other exemptions that you're entitled to, because the savings can be quite substantial. If you are, every homeowner is entitled to the homeowner's exemption. If you're over 65, you're also entitled to the senior exemption. If your income is under $65,000 a year and you're a senior, you're entitled to have your exemption level frozen, which is a great benefit at a time when we have rising inflation. And each of those exemptions is worth about $1,000 a year in many jurisdictions at Cook County. So that is something that can make a really big difference for you when you're figuring out affordability and when you're planning a purchase of a home. And you should tell your bank about your veteran status so that they can calculate, when they're calculating your mortgage payment and your escrow, that you are a disabled veteran and you're going to be getting some of these benefits, and that can help them determine the affordability when you take out a mortgage, when you're making the decision on buying a home, especially with interest rates rising these days. We all want to make sure that everyone is getting all of the benefits they deserve, and they're accessing our mortgage system. Of course, if you're a veteran, you may be able to access the VA guaranteed mortgages, which is another great benefit that our federal government provides. And we want to make sure that everyone is participating in that, and the exemptions that we administer here are a really important part of that equation.
I would encourage people to visit your website. I know people look at Facebook and Twitter, but I've gone to your website. It is so clean. It is so easy to follow and understand, the process. Whoever put that website together really did a phenomenal job.
Well, thanks, Colonel Arnold. The last 4 years have been like a gut rehab on an office that was in desperate need of some TLC. And the website has been a part of that. We replaced a 40-year-old computer system. We brought in a wide variety of new people, including people who specialize in visual design, to make it easier for the public to access and read. Because we don't want to put any barriers to accessing benefits. What I laid down on my team is to say, we have a lot of rules that have been put in place by the state, but we don't want to create extra barriers to accessibility through technology or through other bureaucracy. So we want to make it real easy, really simple for people at all different levels of a facility with technology and with everything else, to make it real easy for people. So and now you can apply for, you can appeal, you can do your appeal on your phone. You don't have to stand in line anymore. You can do it by appointment. And it's all about making it easier and safer in these times when we do have the pandemic still afoot, and we need to be watching out for each one of us.
Yeah, one thing also, how can veteran homeowners claim missing exemptions from previous years? Can you go back in time? I'm not sure of how far you go back or what, if you can.
That's a great question, and you absolutely can. So you can look back up to 4 years in time. So if you're a disabled veteran, you can demonstrate you had that status, or if you just are looking back in time for a homeowner's exemption you didn't have or a senior's exemption, you can get something called a certificate of error, which will have basically what we will do is we'll recalculate a tax bill assuming you did have those exemptions, and then we'll refund you the amount that you overpaid. So that check is typically $1,000 or more per year when you didn't have those exemptions. So we're really delighted when we find people who were entitled to exemptions that didn't have them, and then we could say, well, now we're going to make sure you're enrolled, and we're going to refund the amount of property taxes you overpaid. And some people have gotten 5-figure checks from that because it's their money and they had just overpaid. And so we are happy to do this. It's called a certificate of error. You can also look on our website for when you do, if you go to our website and you look at the appeals section, you can, or the exemption section, you can find a section for certificates of error. It's the second line that you'll see if you go to the part of our website for exemptions. You'll see there's a page for certificates of error, and you can apply for them online. Mm-hmm. If you're a veteran, you may need to be able to provide that supporting documentation of the letter from the VA certifying your disability status. But we will take care of you. We're really glad that we now have 10,000 veterans exemptions on the book, up by 20% from where it was before. So we're really pleased that we're getting more and more people enrolled in the system, so that there are fewer people who were not overpaying their taxes.
Yeah, I was wondering, maybe you can give us the website as well. Where would people go for the website? Is there a website or a telephone number people could, call?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So our website is cookcountyassessor.com, mm-hmm. and you can call us by phone at 312-443-7550, and you can tell the person who picks up the phone that you're interested in veterans exemptions or certificates of error or both, and you'll get help on the line. And you can also, on the website, you can go and schedule an appointment if that's easier and more convenient for you.
Fantastic. So 3 ways of doing it.
Yes, exactly. We want to reach people where they are because we know everyone has a different situation, and we're all about accessibility and access for people.
Well, we're coming out of the pandemic, and I always have to say, let us pray, when I say that,
yes.
that we're coming out. But what do you see in the near future, as far as challenges for the assessor's office or for people who have property? Is anything that that keeps you up at night that people should be aware of, that they need to make sure that they're considering these things?
Well, one of the things that we're charged with at our office is fairness. So making sure that every single property, no matter how big or small, is valued fairly, so that each person's share of the taxes that have to be paid, that are determined by others, that are not determined by us, is fair. So we're trying to make sure that we're bringing good data to the table to show that the very biggest buildings are valued fairly. In the past, there's been a lot of evidence showing that at our office and other parts of the assessment system, these biggest buildings tended to be systematically undervalued, and it meant that more burden was being pushed on average hardworking people, homeowners, and small businesses out in the neighborhood. So we're really focused on that issue of fairness, which is elemental to our job, equity. So investing in good data and good people, tracking the market closely to make sure that we're bringing that all to the table to show what the values are from the biggest buildings, so that the little guy isn't picking up the tab for the big guys. Second of all, we want to make sure everyone's getting their exemption. To me, it's not right that there have been too many barriers, or that there are a couple 100,000 homeowners that don't have their homeowners exemption. They're leaving hundreds of millions of dollars on the table every year. We want to make sure that we're reaching people where they are. Mm-hmm. We know there are lots of people who are first-time homeowners, who are first generation in America, might not speak English as a native language. They particularly are more likely not to have those exemptions. So we want to make sure we're reaching them where they are in the languages that they speak, so that they're getting the benefits that they deserve. Third of all, the thing that keeps me up at night these days is inflation. Inflation is so hard on so many different households and people out there who are trying to provide for themselves and their family. They see all the things that are driving up their expenses every month, and we want to make sure that push is not creating distortions in our assessments that put even more burdens on them. So we're watching the market like a hawk to see if prices are starting to come down. We want to make sure our assessments are accurate, and we also want to make sure that that fairness mission that we have, that we're charged with, is front and center at a time like this, because we are concerned that there might be some of these taxing bodies who are also feeling inflation themselves, driving up their levies and passing it on to the homeowner. So these are some of the things that we're watching carefully, and we're making sure we're vigilant on that. In the meantime, we want to make sure that we're reducing barriers to accessibility that can reduce costs for people at this time when we know their budgets might be under pressure.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking, that it can really make and break a family, if they're not taking advantage of the things you're saying. That's why I'm so glad you're on,
Right.
to tell people, to make sure that they check and go to the website and make sure that they are, looking at the assessments and taking advantage of the exemptions that they have, the fair exemptions that they have.
Would you give us that phone number again?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So our number is it's 312. Here, I'm going to make sure I got it right here. 312-443-7550. That's 312-443-7550.
Great.
And our website is cookcountyassessor.com.
Assessor.com. Great.
And we're really proud that the work that we've done over the last 4 years has sort of bent that trend of inevitably rising property taxes and brought it and really changed the trend. So the last 2 years, the average homeowner's tax bill up just 1% each year. And last year, actually, in the city of Chicago, was the first time that the average homeowner's bill fell in over a decade. We're just starting to get information back from Springfield. The multiplier, which is part of the property tax bill, is coming down from 3.2 to 3.0. That increases the value of people's exemptions. And we also expect, bills, especially for folks who live in the south and west sides of Chicago, where we just did a reassessment. We also expect that trend of inevitably rising property taxes not to be the case this year. We expect them to be flat. In many cases, they'll be down.
Yeah, maybe you can make a really quick comment on this, but we have to have you back for another show because I know this is going to be a big topic. But the reason why the taxes are being collected is because we're supporting schools, we're supporting the social infrastructure that people need within their communities, and the importance of why taxes are being collected in the first place. And,
yes, absolutely. It's always a good thing to remember that. 2/3 of our property taxes are for educating our children so that they can be good citizens and productive citizens and participate in the system so that, we're all governed well in this amazing country of ours. That's why we don't do property taxes because they're fun. We don't do assessments because they're fun. We do it so that we can provide services to ourselves as Americans who live in the community and provide the parks and libraries and security through police and our schools. And property taxes are partly how those are funded. And actually 2/3 of our property taxes are for educating and investing in our children. So it's important that the system work well and that we work well for everyone so that we feel comfortable investing in them this way.
Fantastic. You have been an incredible person. So again, my wife, you may see a nice love letter from her saying this is the greatest assessor we've had in history. But again, the website is cookcountyassessor.org. and then
.com.
I'm sorry, .com, and then also the telephone number is 312-443-7550. Make sure that you do what Mr. Kaegi said and go in and take a look at what you are entitled to. If you have an exemption, please make sure that you have it and protect your family in this difficult financial time, as he was alluding to with this inflation we're going through as a nation, not just in Illinois. But thank you for your time, and we're going to go on to the next segment. We're going to have a little bit of a commercial interruption it's an interruption of our nice talk, because we know we would have Kaegi on till midnight right now. but we're actually going to be coming back with another show, so stay with us. This is America's Heroes Group Live.
Okay, thank Colonel Arnold.
You were
Thanks,
great.
Cliff.
You were